Hello guys and welcome back to Med Indian. Today in this video we are going to discuss the strategy for NEET PG 2023. They say that experience is the best teacher. There are certain things that you realize along the journey of preparation and sometimes it is too late to implement it. Every exam makes you realize a lot of things that worked and also those that did not work for you, and everybody's experience is going to be different. And so we decided that we should compile all our experiences and make a video which could benefit the next batch of students who are going for the exam. And this is a very subjective thing because what works for one might not work for someone else. So this is just an example of how you can plan your journey. The best way to go forward is like to take the points that you think will suit you and incorporate it and make it your own journey. Two things that you should be warned about. Something that we particularly struggled with was the fact that the batches before you, like the two batches before you, have had postponements that made the exams, delayed the exams, and because of those postponements, they could do a lot of things that probably you cannot complete in this short span of time. So it is okay. It's absolutely okay if you're not able to do each and everything that everybody suggests. Make it your own journey and make it suit your time constraints as well, because this is something that can trouble you, that you have not done 3 or 4 revisions and everybody told you to do 3 or 4 revisions, and all of those things should not trouble you later. But these are just the things that are best if followed. If it can be followed, that could be the best way forward. So and the second thing is all your previous exams, your previous rank, your university marks, your GTs, none of these matter. If you are ready to give it your all in these 6 or 7 months leading to the exam, anybody can do it, and it is important to have confidence in yourself. You have to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, anything can happen. And the exam day can be highly unpredictable, and everything that we have in our hands is to give our best, the best attempt that we can. How you are on the day of your exam, that is being calm and composed and being able to think on the day of the exam, is very important. So we have divided the discussion of this video under the following headings. One is planning for the day of the exam. This is basically how you plan your GTs as well. So each and every GT, if you're going to think of it as an exam, the exam is going to be just another GT for you, and you're going to be very calm. So under this, we're going to see how we can, how aggressive we need to go, how to guess which are the questions that you need to leave and stuff like that. Then planning for 10 to 12 days before the exam. The revision is the most important thing, and also because there are so many subjects, there are 20 subjects, and we need to cover all of them in the last 10 to 12 days, at least like a bit of it, so that we freshen up the memory and remember it on the day of the exam. So no matter how many times you have read everything before, if you have not touched that topic for a very long time, that is like after 20 subjects, if you come back to the first subject, it always feels like it is something new. So planning for the 10 to 12 days before the exam, and then the content, how to choose, how to see videos, how to read, and how to revise. Then a typical day how a typical day should look like, and how to tackle difficult subjects or difficult topics. Then revisions and the most common difficulties that are faced by most people. In this video, we'll discuss about how to go about if you have the entire day for yourself. That is, if you don't have a job or an internship on hand. So this is basically going to be helpful for people who are going to take a drop year, or they want to have this year is dedicated for preparation. So the overall idea is to read and see videos, then read on the same day. Generally, there used to be something called a subject-wise test, and then a cumulative test, and then a GT, and then revisions. Revision 1 is ideally should be done before INICT November, and then revision 2, revision 3 before NEET. So basically, first thing is the first part is to do the videos, or you don't have to do every video. It is to get idea is to get the notes ready so that you can read them and revise the same notes again and again. So the first thing is how to plan for the exam day. The exam day is the most important part of the preparation, because what you do on the exam will matter the most. Nothing that you have done before will matter if you're not calm on the day of your exam. The exam day is going to decide your rank, and of course your preparation, your revisions are going to help you be calm on the day of the exam. So how do you make sure that you are prepared for the exam day? The first thing is to give multiple GTs. So not just give one GT. It's like not just giving GT. You also have to plan according to your strengths and weakness, and modify your GT giving skills throughout your preparation. Most people are scared of GTs because they think that if they get lesser marks, they're going to feel low and not be able to study, but that is not true. If it is better to get low marks now and start improving over time than to be than to be surprised on the day of the exam. So whenever you're giving a GT, the most important thing is to have time management for the 210 minutes. You have to plan your questions to time ratio. So 210 minutes are there and 200 questions are there. So the last 20 to 30 minutes for will be for questions that you are marked for review. And because you have just 20 to 30 minutes for questions marked for review, you shouldn't ideally keep more than 40 to 50 questions for review, because you will get tense that you have a lot of things that you have to see again. So if you start practicing it from now itself, that you give around give around 20 to 30 minutes spare time in the end. That is where you are going to skim through all the questions that you have marked for review. So you will be left with 180 to 190 minutes for 200 questions. And it is very important to know how good you are at guessing. So almost every app has this either flag question or a guessed question every time you're attempting a question. And this is very important. Why? Because especially in NEET, there are a lot of people, there are like thousands of people for each marks. So your rank will depend on the number of negatives. The lesser the number of negatives, the higher your rank is going to be. So it is very important to know your guessing ability. And guessing is basically educated guessing. That is you are ruling out the other options and you think the best option is the option that you are going to take. So and one more thing is most of the questions in NEET PG 2022 were long stem questions, and it is important that you don't keep a lot of long stem questions in the end for review, because once you have already read them and if you are going to keep them for review, you have to read the whole thing again in order to get the exact idea of the question. So if you have left that for the end, and if there is less time, reading the entire question in that hurry and in that stress will become more difficult. So it is better if you can finish the select the best option for a long stem question in your first run through of the questions itself. And during GTs, it is important that you do not cheat in your GTs. You are deceiving just yourself and nobody else. And the best way is after the first reading, you should start making the 20th notebook. Hopefully everybody knows about the 20th notebook, where you generally put the volatile topics, the mnemonics, the classifications, or the previous year repeated MCQ mistakes that you are doing in your GTs. This should be done ideally after the first reading, during the first revision. And every time you are giving a GT, before each GT, try to run through the 20th notebook, just like on the day or before the day of the exam, you would go through the 20th notebook. So it is important that every time you are going to take a GT, you revise the 20th notebook. That makes it easier during the exam. So once the revision phase starts, you can keep around 20 to 30 minutes per day to read the 20th notebook. Most people make this mistake that they keep on writing points in their 20th notebook, but they do not allow time to read that. What is this 20th notebook? It is the most volatile, most important topics, and if you are going to open them, if you are going to keep them only for the last 10 days and you have never touched them before, just written them down but never read them before, you are going to freak out, because they are important, volatile, and they are the ones that need repeated revision. So at least 30 minutes per day for the 20th notebook is a must. So every time it is best if you can read it just before giving each and every GT, such that by the last 10 days you know most of the content that is there, and you can easily skim through the points. So how do you know that your 20th notebook is good, or the quality of the 20th notebook is like, once you start revision and the GTs that you give during your revisions, at least 50 to 60% of all GT questions should be from your 20th notebook. That indicates that you have a good enough 20th notebook that you can rely on for your exam. Then coming to the next part, this was about the exam day. Exam day is important, and for the exam day, you prepare by preparing GTs, and you ensure that you are very calm on the exam day. You can think of your exam as just another GT. So you should learn how aggressive you need to be, and how where you need to take risk and where you should not. A lot of people in INI CET, it is more important to be aggressive and go for all, because the number of seats are very less and the number of people are more. So if you are going to get it, you are going to get it by marking more questions. But in NEET, if you are going to mark a lot of questions, but your guessing rate is not that good, what happens in the exam is based on the tie-breaking criteria, when people have the same marks, your rank is going to go lower for the same marks if you have made a lot of marked a lot of negative questions. So it is important to know every GT you need to figure out what were the mistakes, where your guessings wrong, where you're going wrong, which is your weakest subject, what are your strengths, and work on them. More about this, we shall come to GT days and how to go about them once again in the video. So now that we have seen how we are going to prepare for the day of the exam, now it is important to plan for 10 to 12 days before the exam. Why? Because this is the time when your brain is going to be in overdrive mode, and this is the time where you need to consolidate and remember everything. Even if you have done two revisions, but you don't end up reading or just skimming through some of the subjects in the last 10 days, chances are that you may not remember everything that you have read. So it is important to plan for the last revision, that is the 10 to 12 days before the exam. So most people suggest Buri Tarah Rato or the MERs, the most important MERs. If you don't know what BTR and MER are, or there are new videos that Zainab ma'am is doing even now. She is including all biochemistry, vitamins, and other important topics that were not there before. So the most important topics, the must know topics. So if you should have these which are concise and to the point, and you should. If you have already seen some of the MERs and you want them and you know they are important, you can keep them for the final revision. So that is one of the things that you are going to have in the last 10 days. Then your 20th notebook, which you have ideally you would have studied for 30 minutes per day and every time before a GT already. But these are the most important, most asked and previous year questions and the most volatile topics. So if you read them again in the last 10 days, you are going to remember, and these are going to be very high yield. Then any screenshot, and if you are planning to go for first aid, first aid for the first 2 years at least, first 2 year subjects at least, and then all the bookmarks that you have kept in your question from your question bank, and also the mnemonics. It is very important to revise the mnemonics also, because most of the time we remember the mnemonics but do not remember what the actual mnemonic letters meant. So it is important to revise the mnemonics multiple times as well, because it is very heartening in the end if you remember the mnemonic but don't but then get confused between what was I, if it was isoniazid or something else for I, and both the options are there in the question, then you lose marks there. So it is important to revise the mnemonics as well. So when you are making mnemonics, make it a separate book, or you can add it to your own notes. And if you are having a separate note for your notes for your mnemonic, it will be easier for you to revise it in the last 10 days. Then it is also very important to go through some of the highest weighted subjects and the most repeated topics in the exam before in the 10 days. For example, many people make this mistake. OBG has around 20 marks weightage in NEET. We'll go through the weightage and previously commonly asked the weightage, even though there's no strict rule for the weightage for each subject in NEET. There are certain subjects which almost always have been asked more than 15 questions per paper, and those are the subjects that you should not miss in the last week, because even if you have studied them and then you have studied 19 subjects after that, the chances are that you will not remember everything that is there. And these subjects that you have already revised, these don't take too much time. You just have to skim through the pages, you just have to see the pages, the highlighted points, and just get a pictorial memory in the last few days. So it is important to read and revise the most questions with the most subjects with the most weightage in the last 10 days. So it is important for NEET. Generally PSM, OBG, surgery, micro, pharmac and biochem have a lot of questions, and similarly INI has some very commonly asked topics and very commonly asked questions, and also they repeat a few of the previous year questions as well. So in INI, biostats, patho especially, the CD markers, interleukins, and genetics, very important. They ask a lot of questions from genetics in the previous exams. Biochem, they ask a lot of questions. Previous year questions 5 years minimum. And trauma surgery in INI is very important. Similarly in NEET, PSM, environment, and OBG, a lot of questions from OBG, micro, pharmac, and biochem will be asked. So it is important to include allot time for these subjects in the last 10 days, so that you don't miss out or you don't forget whatever you already know. Then the other things are previous year questions of 3 years of NEET at least. Like this is for the last 10 days that I'm talking about. So the last 3 years of NEET and previous year 3 years of FMG is also important, because the exam conducting body is NBE, and a lot of questions, especially PSM, were there in the were similar for this year's NEET, that is NEET PG 2022, from FMG questions. So 3 years of FMG questions and some of the previous year INI questions, INI papers, you can keep it for the last 10 days. So the best way to go about them is like to solve them as a yearly, like if you go for 2022 NEET PG question, or solve all of them and keep it from the beginning itself, like now only you solve them and keep them, so that you can add them to your notes as well. And in the end, if you have not solved them year wise, it becomes a little difficult to find year wise exams. But for subject wise, it is generally easy to put filters and see them in subject wise manner. So would suggest going for year wise solving of questions and keep them ready beforehand. Now that we have planned for the exam day and also the 10 days leading to the exam, we need to know how to prepare the content in order to complete everything for the last 10 days and for the exam as well. So we have around 7 months, 6 to 7 months remaining for the exam, considering it is somewhere around January. Nobody knows the exam date. So it is better to be prepared for January, and if there is any postponement or anything that can be used for revision, it is better not to hope for a postponement from the beginning and not be prepared for the exam if at all it is going to be on time. So we have 7 months, around 210 days. So we can we have already used up the last 2 days, or you can keep the 2 days for buffer, because a lot of nerves and a lot of people do go through a lot of anxiety in these 2 days, and also this can be used as buffer anywhere around. So you can use 2 days plus 10 days, the last 10 days leading to the exam, then 30 days for one revision, 45 days for the other revision, 120 days is remaining, and this 120 days you need to make use of the content, that is the videos or whatever your plan is. You should have notes ready by the end of 120 days, so that you can read them in the 45 days and the 30 days and the 10 days that is remaining. So this 120 days is both for the videos and MCQs and solving previous year questions. So videos, coming to the first part, that is videos. Irrespective of your source, almost all coaching institutes are going to have similar structure, similar notes. The teaching might differ a bit, but depending on your, you can always go for a few demo classes. You can see which one suits you the best. Coming to videos and content, by now I think most people would have already decided or chosen their coaching platform, be it online or offline. So the best idea is, if you are going for online platforms and there is no you have to make your own schedule, it is best to go with online live class schedule. Like you will have somebody, some of your friends who are taking the online live class schedule. So the best way is to go with the schedule, so that you don't take too much time for one subject and have very less left for the other subjects. So the perfect distribution, they will have a schedule based on the distribution according to the weightage of the subject, or if you can get hold of the T&D schedule of some institute, that would be good. That is if you have if you are planning to study on your own with an online platform. If you are on already enrolled to a live class, they will give you the schedule. They will have generally the pattern is they will complete a subject in for example, if there is 1 week they will allot subjects and the number of days that they will give for the subject. So once the subject is done, say for example they've given 7 days for a subject, it is and they're going to conduct classes for 5 days. They're going to give 2 days off so that you can study the subject and give a test at the end of at the end of the 2 days, and you can assess your subject preparation. This will also ensure that you have finished one reading at this point in time. So the pattern is they'll complete the subject. You will have to either solve the previous year questions first, or read the notes first and then go for previous year questions. And in case you're not able to, because of time constraints, in case like throughout the for all 20 subjects, it's not necessary to make your own handwritten notes. It's okay if you're using printed notes or PDF, but as far as possible, make it your own. So annotate it and make it your own, so that you feel like it is yours. There are people who don't have good handwritings, who prefer reading already handmade notes or printed notes, and that is fine as well. And especially for people who have all the 20 subjects to make notes of, if you're not following a live schedule, live class, it might become very difficult to read everything and make notes. And if you're pausing at every point and making notes, it takes a longer time to complete everything. So it is okay if you're using printed notes as well, because there were a lot of topper interviews that you can see where they used printed notes and they did well. It is important to have good revisions. Having said that, if you write your own notes, it does make a difference, because you are trying to understand, assimilate, and then write. So that is going to be helpful. But in case the time is not permissible, it is okay if you have if you're using handwritten notes. Then previous year questions, either you can do it either ways. Either do the previous year questions so that you know what are the most important topics while you're doing the class, or you can do the finish the videos, read the notes, and then go for previous year questions. Don't add each and every question that is there in modules to your notes, because it is important to keep your notes crisp and concise to come back for revisions. Because if it is a lot of pages and there's a lot of stuff to cover, you will feel you don't feel like going ahead with it. So only add PYQs to your notes if they are missing, and this is also true for people who have already done certain classes in their third or fourth year and have the notes and don't know what to add to their notes. Only add previous year questions and previous year topics if they are missing from your notes, and don't make the notes too long by running behind each and every content that is available in the market right now. Then you give a subject-wise test. Then revise the notes within the next week if it is possible. Generally, this is what Bhatia schedule looked like. They used to generally keep a subject in a particular week, and then that week would be divided into classes for the first few days, and then 2 days or 2 days off, wherein you would get time to solve questions and read the subject, and then they would keep a test at the end of this. And the same thing would be done for the next subject as well. And after 2 subjects or 3 subjects, they used to keep a CWT, that is like a cumulative test. So in the cumulative test, you will have to go through the notes of both first and second subjects that are covered, and then give the test. So that is like repeated revision and spaced repetition. So that would be very useful if you can inculcate that into your schedule. Then once you are done with the cumulative test, or just before a GT, also if you can revise that notes, that would be good. Then you put the repeated volatile topics into your 20th notebook. This would be the ideal plan in the initial months. Then for the 20th notebook, you can there are a lot of people who have used first aid and found it very useful. So first aid, you can either use first aid as a summary, PDF annotate into your note, or you can use the first aid as a 20th notebook for your first and second year subjects as well. So coming to how your day should ideally look like, it is okay if you cannot inculcate everything, or you can add something and remove something from this. This is just an idea as to how you can structure your day, you can plan your day. So we have divided this into 3 types of days. One is typical day where you're watching videos or attending classes, and then there are the 2 days off before the SWT subject-wise test. And then there are GT days where you plan for your GT and give a GT. So the 3 types of days. So for a typical day, when you have classes or when you have to watch videos, we considering 12 hours you're allotting for this. So it is depending on if you are a day person or a night person, you can structure it accordingly. The best way is to at least give around 30 minutes for previous year questions, Anki deck, if you have already made it. If you have not made it, there are Anki decks already made based on 4-year question papers, previous year question papers. You can use them. Then around 1 hour you should give for pre-PG daily quiz. If you don't know about pre-PG, or if you are not used it before, you can look at our previous video where we've discussed how to use pre-PG and inculcate this in your daily schedule. They'll have daily quiz of different subjects. So even if you're doing a different subject than what is there in your class notes, it is going to be like a repetitive spaced repetition and active recall, because you're attending a test. It's an MCQ test. So this will ensure that you have finished around 50 MCQs per day, and that is going initially it might not look like a lot, but in the end cumulative you would have done a lot of MCQs, and you would be confident even in see, for example, if you're doing a subject, you will do well in the MCQs of that subject. But when you're taking a daily quiz of a different subject based on their schedule, you are going to make sure that you also remember some of the other points from other subjects, because on the day of the exam, it is going to be all subjects together. So 1 hour for taking the test and also reviewing the answers, you would need that much time. Then 6 to 8 hours of classes with making notes based on your class schedule or your online class or your own schedule. Then previous year questions, ideally at least 30 minutes, like related to the topic that you have taken the class on. So previous year NEET, previous INI, FMGE questions related to the notes or the class videos that you just saw that day. Then around 1.5 hours at the end of the class is important to at least read the notes that you have made in the day, because this will ensure that you have also read the topic on the same day. Because if you leave the topic for the last 2 days, you will not be able to finish everything that is done over a period of 5 days in the last 2 days before the SWT. So it is important for you to read 1 to 1.5 hour notes on the same day. This might all seem overwhelming right now. You might not be able to do everything in the initial stages, but as you go on, you will start managing your time better. So 45 minutes of MER can also be added at 1.5x, plus 15 minutes of review of the PDF directly. You don't have to make notes, because ma'am gives the notes or ma'am gives the PDF. PDF will be available. So 45 minutes of MER or whatever ma'am is taking classes of, you can allot that for the time. And do make sure that you give some time for yourself. This is just around 12.5 hours that is that is being used. So in 24 hours, if you're going to consider 6 to 8 hours of sleep, the rest of the time you get around 4 hours minimum for all the other activities. It is good if you can include some exercise and meditation in your schedule, because it becomes too monotonous if you're doing the same thing. It is important to be consistent, and your consistency will depend on your burnout. If you are burnt out in the initial stages itself, it becomes very difficult to maintain the consistency. So include some exercise and meditation in your schedule. So this is about a typical day with a class. So if there is no class, like if you have 12 hours and if you don't have a class, so the best way is to finish reading the notes of the subject that you were doing, that is the subject that has a subject-wise test in the end. So, and solve MCQs. Once you're done with the previous year questions, then you can go for the modules of the respective topics and finish them off. 60% to notes in the initial stages, 40% to MCQs would be the ideal division. Later you can increase the MCQs to 60 and reduce the reading notes part. You will realize this as you go along the way, that you can make the changes. Then on the day off, you can also watch Dr. Nikita's mnemonic videos and make notes of the same, either in a separate notes or add them to the same notes that you have already made. So add to the subject notes. That is, this is for the subject that you have already chosen for that week. So and then you can you can also use the previous year Anki questions or for 30 minutes in a day. Next is GT days. It is best if you can take the GT at the time of the actual exam, like take the full 210 minutes, and generally, like what happens on the day of the exam is the centers are very far and you need to be there before time, so you will have to get up early. So it is best if you can take the GT day, like the exam day, wake up early, and then use the time that you have before taking the GT and the actual exam time, and the time you've got by waking up early for like reading the 20th notebook, like I mentioned in the initial part of the video. And give GT, very important. This is, most people are scared to take the GT in the beginning, so give the GTs even if you're not prepared, even if you think you're not going to do well. It is important to see your progress. It is important to learn from your mistakes, make mistakes and learn from your mistakes at this stage itself. Don't be scared of GTs. Make GTs your friend. So you should be as calm as possible on the exam day, and that will only come if you have already a plan for the GTs and for the exam as well. Then ideally on the GT day, you give the GT, then you review the GT on the same day. Many people used to follow this method of doing it for the whole week, like parts of the GT for the whole week. That also you can do, or you can review the same day, that is GT on the same day, because you will know where you went wrong, what you were thinking during the exam versus what the explanation is, and you can also make your own ways to remember, and you can finish it off at one stretch, because you will remember the questions, and you don't have to read the whole stem of the question again and again, read the review and all those things, which you will have to do if you're going to use the whole week to complete your review. So ideally it is better if you can give GT and review it on the same day. If not, you can suit your convenience. Then example for making your own ways to remember like common confusing questions, they give as you go along, you will know that there are certain questions that are commonly asked, like Crohn's versus ulcerative colitis. Like initially, when you finish that topic, reading that topic, you will know that subject and know that answer. But as you go on, keep adding to your knowledge, you will start getting confused between these two. That is why they are most commonly asked, and both of them will be there in the options in different ways. So example is like case control study and cohort study, and a lot of questions keep coming from there, and you're doing a mistake every time. Just make a small mnemonic that you can remember every time you're doing that. So for example, case care is like RE for retrospective study. It will have recall bias, and it is useful in rare diseases. So case care, this is something that you can do while you're doing the GTs, like write it in your notes for questions that are commonly repeated but you're still making a mistake. Then on that day, once you're done with the GT, you can either take the day off, take a break, or if you're towards the final stages, like towards like in the later stages towards the exam, that is in the later months, you can identify 2 of the weakest subjects in that GT and go through your notes if you have already seen the videos. And if you have not seen the videos, you can see the videos related to the topic to strengthen the topic in the weakest subjects that are there in that GT, and take the rest of the day off, because it's very important to take breaks. I know a few people who used to be worried that they're taking breaks and be guilty that they're wasting time. It is not about wasting time. Your brain also needs time off to assimilate everything, to get everything, consolidate everything. So it is important to take breaks as well. Initially, you might initially in the GT you might not do well. The graph of GT might look something like this. You will start off somewhere here. Your rank might not be that good. Your marks might not be that good, and then you start slowly improving, and you will reach a plateau. Generally, people reach a plateau at around the 120 to 140 corrects. They get stuck at around that point. And why is this? This is like normal. This is normal, and it's okay to be at that point. But don't get scared of GTs. Keep giving more GTs so that you can improve. So initially, bad scores are okay. Stuck at 120 to 140 is okay. The most important thing when you do this is to identify your strengths and weakness. If you're getting a lot of negatives, or if you're being too aggressive, or if you can make a chart where you identify if something was missing from your notes, or if something was already there in your notes but you still could not recall it, and then you can also divide it into silly mistakes, that is mistakes like where you were confused between two options. These are the most common mistakes even in the exam. You need to find ways to reduce these mistakes. And then the last one is if mistakes that you knew and you did not read the question well. This you need to reduce by practicing more GTs and more questions, so that you don't miss the except or the double negatives in the question. And then there will be times like you're doing well, and then you have suddenly bad GT scores, and you start feeling low after that. That happens to most people because you can't always be consistent, and different GTs have different difficulty levels. And try to give GT from at least 2 platforms. This is not for the initial stages, of course. In the revision phase, try to give GTs from at least 2 platforms, so that you know where you stand. Because once you're understanding the pattern of a GT from a particular platform, you'll start doing well in that. But no GT ever is exactly the same as the exam, so you cannot predict the exam. So it is better if you can give multiple platform GTs, so that you are more prepared for a common exam that is set by it. The final exam is not set by any of the platforms, so you're going to be ready for that. The next common GT problems is that you get stuck at for around 140, and you're not improving. So these are all normal and happens to most people. And if you're at that stage, it is okay, and you just have to find what you can do best, what others are doing that you can inculcate in your strategy, and build on that. Then it is next a very important thing. You should not get carried away by your GT marks. No matter what, it's very easy for us to say everybody, even I myself used to go through this. Initially, I used to feel that I will not get affected by my GT, but once you've prepared, you're done with a lot of subjects, and still you're not able to get beyond that 140 mark or 130 mark, you will start doubting your preparation. You will start feeling low because you think that you've put in a lot of effort, but the marks are not improving. So and also the other way around, you should not get carried away by a good GT score and start getting overconfident, because GTs will vary, and on the day of the exam, a lot of factors will add up, and it is not. GTs are just to give you an idea of how to solve questions, how to be vigilant in the 3.5 hours, etc. So don't take bad GT scores or good GT scores to heart, and just learn from your GTs and move on. Okay, so we have seen how a typical day should look, how a day off should look without classes, and how a GT day should look. We'll see the rest of the topics in the part 2 of this video, so that this doesn't become too long and boring. So we'll see the difficult subjects, how to go about the factual subjects, how to go about with anatomy, and how to do revisions, how to plan your revisions, and the common difficulties that most people face. Like, most people feel that they're the only ones who are going through this, but it is very common, and it is very important how you handle these situations and not get too dejected by each phase. So that is one thing that we're going to see. And then we are going to see analyze the previous year pattern of exams and see how many questions from each, and what are the things that will need more importance. I hope this video was useful. Do let us know if you find this useful, and thank you for watching.